Thank you all for coming over today. As was said, my name is Marianne Olson. I'm a director in our cybersecurity practice, which really means that I help support our clients be able to understand different cybersecurity technologies, how to help them implement and operate them. Nausheen?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nausheen. I am a senior manager in our cloud and digital practice at PwC. In the last 8 years, I have built a ton of solutions on AWS, and I'm really focused with working with our clients in building solutions on AWS, and more recently with a focus on cyber and resiliency. Nice to have you all here today.
So we're here today to talk through a few items, and really it's to help stoke some of the ideas about how you can be thinking about these different areas in your organizations. And we're very open to continuing the dialogue afterwards, right? This is really a lightning talk, so very quick, rapid succession of a few different topics.
Yeah.
But as you have interest in diving into things more, happy to engage with you after. 4 main areas that we'll be hitting on today. The first is around continuous compliance, helping to support and understand readiness for all your different regulatory needs. The second is around helping to support and drive resilience in your AWS atmosphere. And then generative AI for cybersecurity and how to think about some of the components there and really how to bring that through in a overall cost-optimized way, as we're all cost-conscious right now. So we'll first go into continuous compliance and some of the things that really means and where that sits. So compliance is something that I get hit with a lot with the different industries that I work in. I work in a lot of heavily regulated industries like the energy sector, financial areas as well. And one of the things that continuously comes up is we have all of these regulations. We have all of these different changes that are happening all along the way. NIST-CSF just came out with a 2.0. There's new requirements around our data, our security, our privacy components. How do we keep up to date, and how do we make sure that we are compliant and that we're driving those types of solutions and decisions? Similarly, I have folks who say, hey, I'm getting hit by 4 or 5 different regulators and I have to produce almost the same thing. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of generating the same information. It's very difficult to know where I can operate and what I can do when I can't even get out of these audits, right? I want to actually build things, not just provide the input. And similarly, right, where can all that data come from? How can I make sure that it's the most updated, most accurate? And so that's really one of the key motivating factors for us to work with AWS to build a solution in our client's AWS operating system. So not coming over to PwC. We're very risk averse. We do not want any of our clients' data in our space. But we want to be able to enable our clients to be able to answer those questions, to be able to come to an audit and be able to say with confidence that I am meeting these PCI regulations, I am meeting these FedRAMP obligations, I am able to really demonstrate this across the board. And so we've worked with AWS in order to leverage some of the different security logs from a lot of the vendors that you see here today, bring them into the Security Lake and other AWS services, build analytics on top of that, and then visualizations so that you can actually do those different cuts. You can be able to say to your board, we're in a good space, or hey, our data security team needs to work on fixing these few things, or this application is behind the times, and so we need to help be able to put and apply the pressure where we need to. But being able to do that with the live feeds and the live logs from your systems, being able to pull that from on-premise, from the different cloud environments that they operate, but being able to pull that all within their AWS environment and really be able to keep that moving. And so that's one of the things that we're here and really excited to talk with you all about. One specific feature of compliance that comes up a lot, which is why it's our second topic, is around resiliency. And for designing and running a resilient stack, that's really where Nausheen has been able to lean in and be able to talk through. And so she'll talk to you next about some of the capabilities that they've done to be able to make resiliency a little bit more smooth.
Thanks, Marianne. Okay, so we've all heard of this quote before. It's one of my favorites, and I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's not an if anymore, it's when an organization is going to have a cyber incident. Now, we all know organizations put a very important focus on data protection. How can they adopt leading practices to really secure their sensitive information? But what is also really important in this space is being the ability to detect, respond, and recover from cyber incidents, not only in a timely fashion, but also with confidence. Outside of being able to recover, in the last decade, we've seen the severity of cyber incident attacks have drastically gone up, to a point where there is now a deeper evaluation of cybersecurity practices at organizations. Regulatory compliance, being able to recover from cyber incidents, all while minimizing downtime in your environments, continue to be the conversation starters at our clients when it comes to cyber resiliency. So how do we see clients get started in this space? Like, what can they do to get started? There's a ton of steps that you can take in this space to get started. We see clients adopt a cyber or data or vault environment where they're able to regularly take backups of their most critical data. But an approach that PwC has really leaned in on in this space is the ability to automate recovery. Now, the ability to automate recovery could be ability to automate recovery from a cyber recovery standpoint or a disaster recovery standpoint. The scenario does not matter. But what automation really brings to the table for us and for our clients is two things. A lot of times we see clients focus on recovery when it comes to actually recovering from a cyber incident or a disaster recovery. But the other aspect that they miss is that this concept of regular testing. You need to be able to have a process to regularly test the ability to recover, because that's what's going to help your teams instill confidence. It's not only going to instill confidence in your application teams, but also your operations teams and your leadership. Another advantage that comes with automation is you're able to do these activities more frequently. And because you're able to do it frequently, you can now produce data-driven insights and documentation on how long these recovery exercises are taking for you, and you're able to actually stand behind a recovery time objective. Like I mentioned, we've really leaned in on building approaches and solutions in this space. So when we look at recovery orchestration, when it comes to either a cyber incident or a disaster recovery, we really view it as an orchestration challenge. At the end of the day, it is an orchestration problem. And the reason why I say that is it's twofold. There's orchestration at two different levels. Number one is if I am trying to recover a single application, within an application, and your application could be made up of multiple layers. Everyone's going to have a compute layer. We're going to have a storage layer. We're going to have a database layer. There's some sort of orchestration that needs to happen. Someone to say, okay, I need my database to come up before I need my compute instances to come up. That's a typical orchestration challenge within an application. But step two of the orchestration challenge that we've seen at clients is nobody is doing recovery activities for a single application. If you're conducting a recovery activity, you're doing it across a portfolio of applications. And the big challenge when you're dealing with a portfolio of applications is dependencies. Almost every application is going to be dependent on another application. And that's the part two of the recovery challenge or the orchestration challenge that we're trying to solve here is how do we orchestrate recovery within an application, but how do we also orchestrate recovery across a portfolio of applications? So the approach that we've built is really tailored to two personas here. It could be your operations team that are the ones performing recovery in a cyber recovery scenario or a disaster recovery scenario. But the second persona that I mentioned earlier is your application teams. They are able to use this approach to conduct regular testing in their application environments as well. Our cyber recovery engine is powered by AWS step functions. The way we see it work is our personas could be an operations team or an application team. Once they come work with this engine, they have the ability to specify, are they failing over a single application or are they failing over a portfolio of applications? And within that, we have the concept of a recipe file. Now, what this recipe file does, it's sort of like the brain of our platform. It's our orchestration engine. It tells me that, hey, I need to do ECS clusters before I can do my DynamoDB tables. Or it tells me I need to do application A before I do application B. Once all that input is gathered from our operations teams, in the back end, we've built a ton of modules that we are calling operations modules. Now, what are these operations modules doing? They are primarily focused on tapping into data backups or tapping into your cyber vault to create your recovery environment. In a disaster recovery scenario, let's take an example. You're deployed in a warm standby configuration. In a typical warm standby configuration, an application almost always has a presence in a recovery environment. So in this approach, our operations module is just scaling up the environment that's deployed in a warm standby configuration. So we have different modules built out. If I had to take an example, for Aurora, in a warm standby configuration, we see clients typically deploying global Aurora clusters. So data is constantly replicating between your primary environment and your recovery environment. What a tool like this is doing is it's breaking the replication, promoting your secondary environment as your primary, and then going down the tool chain and taking steps for other services as necessary. I've said a lot here, but the main focus of this approach has been automation. Automation has enabled us to get here. There's another area where automation has played a big role, and Marianne's going to talk about it. But if I had to take a few takeaways from this is not another tool that PwC is selling. This is a tailored approach that we're working with our clients. We're working with them in their environments to tailor this for them. Like, we all know no recovery looks the same. Every recovery is going to be different based on your application stack. So a solution like this could be customized to your application stack. More recently, when we did this for a client, we were able to get down the recovery from multiple days to minutes. They went from having like these really long operational runbooks that you need to follow to conduct recovery versus using a tool like this that can put automation at the forefront. With that, I'm going to let Marianne pick up on the automation conversation.
So I think there is not a complete meeting here, if you haven't seen, that doesn't include generative AI. It's something that's very strong in the hype cycle right now, but it's something that's been around for some time, right? It's just now it's getting the attention because it's more accessible. It's more accessible to the boards that are supporting our organizations. They can finally understand the underlying concepts of things like machine learning and natural language processing and all of these different things that, again, have been around for a bit. In the cybersecurity space, there's two main areas of discussion that we generally come to. It is cybersecurity of AI, making sure that our models and all of these things that we're leveraging are leveraged in an appropriate way, as well as leveraging AI for cybersecurity. And these are the common things that we keep hearing from our clients is how can we use these in both spaces. I have gone into discussions with our C-suite, and they usually are on one end of the spectrum. They either are looking at AI as this big scary devil that they need to protect their overall organization from. They need to shut down. They need to work through, and then gradually work through opening up and be able to think through it conscientiously. Or they are being pressured by their overall IT organization or their C-suite, their board, in order to leverage it more extensively. And so the question becomes, how do we reach an appropriate space where we're able to leverage AI responsibly and be able to work through those things? So I think there's a lot of different perspectives on this, and we can spend a significant amount of time. But as this is an AWS conference, where I'd like to lean in is where we have seen as we've been designing and building solutions with our clients in Bedrock and Q. One of the recent examples is we were engaging with a CISO at a large organization, and in demos of some of the capabilities that we have developed within one of our solution sets, we threw some of their different security logs in. We're able to generate quick site dashboards and work through things with them on that, and then be able to demonstrate to them the interactive capability of saying, hey, this is a pie chart. I want to change it into a bar chart. I want to be able to drill in on this business unit. Let's engage. Let's make the metrics accessible in ways that can actually help promote and enable me as a business lead to be able to make decisions. And being able to build all of those capabilities within AWS then leverages these different types of functions to be able to actually have some of those insights, be able to engage a little bit more dynamically with those solutions. And so that's been one of the core areas of focus that we have been doing is any of the solution sets that we help our clients consider, it's really how can we help bring in some of the automation, how can we help them think through how they can democratize the skill set so that folks who are coming in who are outside of security but need security in order to function, right, or application owners as other spaces, how can they engage with the same content in ways that are meaningful to them so that they can do their job and simplify those functions. And so, happy to engage with you all on some of the ways that we have been able to help support our clients work through that and be able to balance that responsible AI component as well as feeding it the information it needs in order to make sure that we're in a good space. But one of the most common aspects that has come up in client conversations is that's all well and good. We have these different solutions, and yes, I know automation will save me money, but we're in a really tight budgetary situation right now. We're getting funding cut. How can we really accelerate and enable this solution in a cost-effective manner? How can we be thinking about our overall tool set in a way that is sustainable for us? And so that's one of the areas that we'll use to wrap up is Nasheen will talk to us a little bit about how we can leverage AWS in a more cost-efficient manner. And as noted before, any questions, we're happy to address at the end.
Okay. So I know Marianne said we're going to talk about a cost a little bit, but we're going to go a little broad here. So we know that at this point that all organizations require the ability to restore and recover from incidents, be it cyber or disaster. But there's key factors why clients are not able to get to this position. One, I think it's known to all of us, right? There's building an automation and orchestration solution requires a skill set. It requires the time and budget to invest in these solutions. Combine that with competing priorities. All our organizations are focused on building competitive features that they could take to market for their customers. Cyber resiliency does take a backseat when we are competing with those priorities. But the third one also being disparate tooling. Every time we go about building one of these solutions, there are existing tool sets in the client's environments that we also have to worry about how do we integrate with these. So all this has sort of started making us think about a concept that has been around for a bit but hasn't got much attention is continuous resiliency. It's great that we are able to actually provide solutions to do recovery when it's required. But if we take a step back and see what is it that's stopping us from doing continuous verification. Let's take an example here, right? Configuration drift. A topic that's been around quite a lot. We see constantly application teams updating their infrastructure using infrastructure as code, but a lot of times we identify configuration drift when the number of environments increases. Now you have like a primary production environment, you have a secondary production environment, and now you also have this recovery environment that you have to take into account. If you're not constantly pushing your new versions to these environments, you are going to be in a configuration drift. Now imagine going into a recovery scenario, you use any automated solution and you're like, okay, let's go do this recovery. If you're in a configuration drift, your recovery is going to fail. No matter what, it is going to fail because there were things that are out of sync from your primary environment. And it would be really nice to be able to recognize that, hey, there was no point of my team doing this recovery activity because I knew like on step number 1, I am going to fail. And that's the concept that we're really driving with our clients now is being able to build this continuous verification checks for infrastructure that's deployed in your recovery environments that's constantly checking if my infrastructure is recoverable. If what's sitting out there is secure, is it at the most recent version, and is it deployed as a replica to my primary environment, and is it going to be able to take our replication load? So that's something we wanted to leave you all with. Resiliency is not something you wake up and do 4 times a year. We're seeing a lot of continuous resiliency solution. The solution we've built is capable of doing continuous verification checks. We do tap into AWS Resiliency Hub and the readiness checks that they provide to be able to constantly poll infrastructure sitting in recovery environments to bring that continuous resiliency concept for our clients. I think with that, we're exactly at time here. We're going to be around for Q&A, so if you guys have anything you all want to talk about, let us know. Thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.